Yeah, so it looks like we're just having a little bit of difficulties getting the live stream. So we are just going to start recording and get going here this morning. What I would like to do at this time is turn it over to Senator Murray to start us off in a good way.
Tansi, Kiowa, bon matin. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Kevin Murray, the Shinnikashon, Kimberley, BC, Newikin. Also want to acknowledge that I reside in the traditional and unceded territory of the Ktunaxa people. Please join me in an opening prayer this morning. Creator, as we come before you today, we ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. As the source of all knowledge and understanding, we seek your direction in our decision-making process. Help us to engage in meaningful discussion, to listen attentively to one another with open hearts and minds. Allow us to grow closer as a group and nurture the bond between our communities and our nation. Merci de Toran.
Masi, thank you, Senator Murray, for those words. All right, before we officially call the meeting to order, I am going to turn it over to our MNGA clerk, Mr. Beaker, to confirm quorum. Go ahead, Mr. Beaker.
Good morning, everyone. So I have a quorum list here based on the registrants. So we'll go through the list in alphabetical order, and then at the end, if I've missed anyone, please call out then. So starting in the A's, Tom Adams.
Good morning.
Morning, Tom. David Allard.
Good morning.
Morning. Melanie Allard. Melanie, I see you, but I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. Is my microphone not working?
There, much better.
Thank you.
Morning.
Here, morning.
Rob Anderson. Rob Anderson. Okay, anyone here from the Vancouver Sea to Sky Métis Association? All right. Danielle Bergevin.
Morning.
Good morning. Caitlin Bird.
Here. Good morning.
Morning. Joy Bremner. Anyone here from the Mid-Island Métis Nation?
I'm just starting to communicate with her now on text, so she may come on.
Okay, thank you. Russell Brewer. Anyone here from the Métis Nation of Powell River? Topher Burke.
Here.
Morning.
Morning.
Ron Caron. Anyone here from Vernon and District Métis Association? Katie Carson.
Present, thank you.
Morning. Bernadette Chaboyer. Anyone here from the Northwest Métis Association? Alana Copeland. Anyone from the Fort St. John Métis Society? Madeline Crozier.
I'm here. Good morning.
Tom Spence.
Good morning.
Morning. Cheryl Dodman. Anyone here from the Kelowna Métis Association? Mark DeBoard.
Present.
Good morning, Mark. Alicia
Morning.
Fernando.
Good morning.
Sorry, I think I heard something.
Oh, here?
Oh, good morning, Alicia. Deborah Fisher.
Present.
Morning. Paulette Flamond.
Present.
Rainey Gervais. Dean Gladu.
Here.
Morning. June Graham.
Good morning.
Hi, June. Patrick Harriet.
Bon matin.
Good morning. Susie Hooper.
Good morning.
Good morning. Travis Jobin.
Present.
Morning, Travis. Jamie Lee Keith.
Go. You got a hug.
Anyone here from the South Okanagan Similkamee Métis Association? Anthony Crelo.
Good morning.
Morning, Anthony. Peter Lang.
Morning.
Good morning. Alan Lavely.
Good morning.
Morning, Alan. Richard Lewis.
Morning, John.
Morning, Richard. Tyler Massey.
Good morning.
Morning, Tyler. Betty Ann McDonnell.
Good morning.
Good morning. Walter Minot.
Here.
Morning.
Good morning.
Mert Servatius. Mert.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mert. Lisa Shepard. Anyone here from the Golden Ears Métis Society? Natasha Smith.
Present.
Good morning. Greg Stanwood.
Good morning.
Hey, Greg.
Hey.
Joy Sundin.
Good morning.
Morning, Joy. Marlene Swears.
Present.
Morning. Vince Van Viergen.
Present.
Good morning. Pixie Wells.
Present.
Morning. Anthony Wingham.
Good morning.
Good morning. Is there anyone that I have missed that is present?
We have Joy Bremner on now under June Graham because I sent her
Yes.
an invite. So I don't know if someone can change that to Joy or
Yeah,
okay.
That looks like Joy to me. I'll
it
take
is me.
Good morning, Joy.
Good morning. Late, but here.
All right.
John,
Uh,
did you call West Kootenai Nicole Corson?
I did not call that. Anyone here from West Kootenai? Nicole Corson? No, and the reason why I didn't call was they didn't register. We went off the registration, but is there anyone who may have registered last minute and jumped in? Please speak now.
Hi, John. It's Alana Copeland. I'm here.
Good morning, Alana.
Hi, John. It's Charlotte Lever.
Excellent. Sorry, Charlotte, could you remind me, please, which community you're with?
North Island Métis.
North Island? All
Yep.
right, perfect.
Just point of clarification, Tyler Massey, the president's already here.
Oh, yes.
I got sent an invitation, so I didn't know whether I was supposed to come or not, but I can leave.
Well, sorry, just very quickly. So, and unfortunately, we still don't have the live stream up yet. But Mr. Harriet raises a very good point. If the assembly is willing to have Miss Lever in as a observer, as they cannot observe the live stream, if everyone's okay with that, and we call Tyler's name when North Island comes up for vote, if everyone's okay with that. Excellent. Okay. Let me do a quick count here. I'm pretty sure that we have quorum, but there were a lot of non-answers I got, so I just want to double check. Hold on. Okay, we have 36 delegates present, and we also have a majority of MNBC board members present, so we have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaker. So I'll officially call the meeting to order, and it's great to see everyone, and I appreciate your time on a, depending where you are, a wet or snowy Sunday morning. I'm just looking at the draft agenda, which everyone should have been provided. And before we get to the adoption of that agenda, I will open it to President Minot for some brief opening remarks. Go ahead, President Minot.
Thank you, Dave. First of all, thank you guys all for being here on a Sunday morning and taking your time to make some good decisions here today on behalf of MNBC. I'd like to apologize for putting the one resolution to the floor and then pulling it because we feel that we're just not ready to make that decision on behalf of MNBC and the citizens. So we'll probably be bringing that back in December at our regular scheduled MNGA for probably a decision at that time. And hopefully we'll have all the information on hand to be able to make a good sound decision on the direction MNBC will be going in the future. Again, thank you guys so much for being here, and I appreciate everybody bringing their time. And I know it's Sunday morning and we all want to be with our families today, so we appreciate every one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, President Minot. So I will move to the adoption of the agenda. The draft agenda, I believe, was sent out and certainly is available on the website. And what I would suggest is because it still does include motion 1 that's been withdrawn, that we simply remove that as well as the health break, and really we would have the new former motion 2, the by-election dates, and then that would really be the conclusion of it. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder with regards to the adoption of the agenda. And if you can just use the raise hand function that alerts and comes up so that I'm able to see. And I do see Katie Carson and Patrick Harriet. So I'll open just to confirm, Katie.
Yep.
Thank
Yes.
you. And Patrick?
I'll second.
Thank you. So we do have the draft agenda for us. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none. And I know with past discussions, when we're looking at unanimous consent, it's always better. It's always kind of difficult when we're looking at for dissent, or an indication of it, but it makes it easier for me to see where that is. Is there any objection to adopting the agenda? And just use your raise hand. Otherwise, we can go by way of unanimous consent. Great. All right. Seeing no objection, then the draft agenda is accepted. And I will turn it over then to Mr. Beaker, our clerk, with regards to what was originally titled Motion 2, but will be the only motion that we have on the agenda today with regards to by-election dates. And go ahead, Mr. Beaker.
Thank you. So motion number 2, submitted to the October 2024 Special Métis Nation Governing Assembly. The subject is by-election dates. Offices affected will be the 2S LGBTQIA+ Provincial Governance Council, MWBC Regional Representatives for Regions 4, 5, and 6, MYBC Regional Representatives for Regions 1, 2, 4, 5, and 7, excuse me. This is a legislative requirement under the Constitution, MNGA Act, and Electoral Act. It was submitted to the clerk on October 11th, 2024, and we need a majority vote to approve. Whereas one Feather was appointed as the Chief Electoral Officer for a 4-year term in March 2024. The 2S LGBTQIA Plus Act was approved at the September 2024 MNBC AGM, creating the 2S LGBTQIA Plus Provincial Governance Council, consisting of a provincial chairperson and 7 regional representatives. Following the 2024 MNBC election, several vacancies remain on the MWBC and MYBC councils. Article 12.1 of the MNGA Act empowers the MNGA to set the date of the next MNBC election, and Article 4 of the Electoral Act allows for election dates to be set by the MNGA in conjunction with the terms outlined in the Constitution. And Article 8.1 of the Electoral Act requires the Chief Electoral Officer to give 60 days notice of the elections. Be it resolved that the election for the 2S LGBTQIA Plus Provincial Governance Council, along with current regional representative vacancies on MWBC and MYBC, and any other vacancies that may occur, be held on, and we are suggesting 2 dates, January 17th, 2025, and January 30th, 2025.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaker. I know Mr. Beaker also has a presentation once this is formally on the floor for discussion and aiding in some of that. But what I do require at this point is a mover and a seconder to have the motion on the floor before the assembly. And I see I'll recognize Vice President Van Weeregen, correct? Thank you. And Director Harriet?
Second.
Thank you very much. So we do have the motion on the floor, and I will certainly invite Vice President Van Weeregen and Director Harriet to speak to it, but I will turn it over first to Mr. Beaker to provide some background information to assist the discussion. Go ahead, Mr. Beaker, when you're ready. So we're just pulling up the brief presentation here.
Apologies about that. I should probably know technology a bit better than apparently I do. Okay, so what we wanted to do is go through 2 pieces around the upcoming by-election, one of which is to give you the rationale behind the 2 meeting dates that we're, the 2 election dates that we're proposing. And then also, it would be I think it would be helpful for the assembly to go over very quickly over how the process of the election will work, seeing as the 2S LGBTQIA plus Provincial Governance Council, this is their first election. We just ratified the legislation. I know that there have been some questions around it. Your questions hopefully will be answered. So, first slide. So for the election date, what we have here is we have some of the key dates for the election. 60 days before the election is when official notice is given by the Chief Electoral Officer. 45 days before is the last day to add to add a citizen's name to the elector list. That is also when the elector list is provided to the Chief Electoral Officer. 40 days before the election is the close of nominations. 21 days before is the deadline for a candidate to withdraw from the election. January 16th is the minimum opening day for online voting, and there's election day. So you will notice that with both the January 17th and the January 30th election dates, a lot of the administrative work of the election is going to fall before the holiday season. Also, also with both of the dates, we expect that the mail-in ballots will be printed and sent out definitely after Christmas. So hopefully our mail ballots will not be caught up in any Christmas mail rush when they're going out to citizens. No promises, but we're not trying to get mail-in ballots while everyone's presents are trying to get in. So, so that is why both of these dates are proposed, because when you look at the timeline of the election, there's a lot of administrative work at the beginning of the time of the election call with the candidates getting their nomination papers in. Then our electoral officer does some work to print the ballots, and then the administrative part rises towards the end of the election when voting is opened online and when the electoral officer starts receiving the ballots back. So both of these dates we're pretty confident we're going to be able to have an election without hopefully having too many disruptions over the holiday period. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the new 2S LGBTQIA plus Provincial Governance Council. First off, the voter criteria for the 2S LGBTQIA plus Provincial Governance Council in the Electoral Act states that any Métis citizen who self-identifies as 2S LGBTQIA plus and is 18 years of age or older may vote for the 2S LGBTQIA plus Provincial Governance Council. How will this be administrated? This will be administrated by having ballots sent to all MNBC citizens who are eligible electors who are 18 plus. And there is a self-declaration on voter envelopes that voters sign, or as an option for online voting. Everyone signs a declaration when they cast a ballot, whether it's through a mail ballot or online, stating that they are eligible to vote in the election. So because the Electoral Act and the 2S LGBTQIA plus Act states that this is a self-declaration and self-identification, everyone's going to have an option to self-declare for the election. So one other point too is that depending on if the races are contested or not, of course, there could be some candidates that are acclaimed, of course, and in that case, no ballots are sent out. But if there's a contested election for the 2S LGBTQI plus chair, ballots will be sent out province-wide. If there's only contests for the regions, they will be sent out to 18 plus MNBC citizens for that region. So, which brings us to the second point. What is the makeup of the 2S LGBTQIA plus council? It is the same as the Métis Women's British Columbia Council and the Métis Youth British Columbia Council. There are 7 elected 2S LGBTQIA plus representatives, 1 from each region, and then the chairperson who is elected province-wide. Then another piece as well is that we will get into the number of signatures that are required for nominations. But if somebody self-identifies as 2S LGBTQIA plus, they may seek elected office for the Provincial Governance Council, and there's a self-declaration on the nomination papers as well that states I am eligible to run for this office. Next slide. All right. How many signatures do people need to be nominated? So For the chairperson of the 2S LGBTQI plus Provincial Governance Council, it is a province-wide sheet, or sorry, province-wide office. So they're looking for 10 signatures from self-declared 2S LGBTQI plus voters on the voters list. Other criteria is you must reside in British Columbia. You cannot sign a candidate's nomination papers for the same position. So you cannot sign the nomination for two people who are running for the chair. You are allowed to sign the nomination papers of the chair and then a regional representative as well. That is allowed. It's just not for candidates that are going to be running against each other if there's more. And of course, you need to be eligible to vote. So for the Métis Women British Columbia Regional Representative, you need 5 signatures. For the youth, you need 3 signatures. And then for the 2S LGBTQIA plus regional representative, you need 3 signatures from self-declared. Also with the same criteria for nominations. And as mentioned, self-declaration is included on the nomination forms, and it's also included on the standard voter package. That's all. I welcome any questions anyone has, and if not, we can go into discussion of the resolution on the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaker. I will open it up to our mover and seconder first, and if you wish to speak to it, please just use the raise hand function and leave it on as it pops up onto my screen so that I can record the names. But I will turn it over first to Vice President Van Wergen.
Yeah, I got not a lot to say in regards to it. Self-explanatory. It's nice to see the election going. I would be a little curious, and I'm sure it's something to do with the Constitution, and perhaps Mr. Beaker could answer. Is there a time frame? I find doing this through Christmas may be difficult for individuals to run and campaign for the LGBTQIA plus, sorry, S2. But is there a reason we have to have it done before January 31st, or can we start it after the holidays would be my question.
Mr. Beaker, if you want to respond.
Yes, and thank you for the question. It is an entirely fair question. The MNBC Constitution states that when there is a vacancy in an office, election needs to be held within 120 days of the vacancy. So with the 2S LGBTQI plus council being created at our AGM, we do need to hold this election within 120 days. So I agree. And actually thinking about it, we may want to give ourselves a little more time in the Constitution to hold by-elections. This is why. So with that said, we let our Chief Electoral Officer know we're going to be running that. He's cleared his time. We knew this was coming. It's not the best timing, but we can work around it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great question there. Director Harriet?
Yeah, very similar thought process. I mean, we're here to fulfill our governance legislation and to get representatives, to give voice to regional women, regional youth, regional 2S LGBTQIA+, and to put a new seat on the board. Christmas holidays is definitely the big elephant in the room. I'm definitely leaning towards the date of the 30th, just to give a little bit more space there. But yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The first hand I saw, but it did come down, is Director Lavalle. Did you wish to speak to this?
Sorry about that. I thought it stayed on. My thing is just like when the ballots go out, when I was doing my campaign, a lot of the people said that they didn't know a witness close to them that could sign for the ballot. So if when the ballots go in and it has to be a witness, if they could say that it doesn't have to be an MNB citizen to witness, because we've got a lot of elderly people that are in homes and all that, so that if they think that they have to try to find an MNBC employee or citizen to validate their vote. And I'd just like to see it in the ballot process where it says that they don't have to, they can get a person that lives next door to them basically to sign it. And then we might get more votes out that way. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, and perhaps I'll turn to Mr. Beaker if you wish to reply to that.
Yeah, thank you for that, Minister Lovely. That was a question that I got from a couple of citizens as well, and we do want to make it clear the witness is to state that somebody is saying, yes, that person is who they say they are on the declaration. It can be anyone. We will make that clear in the mail ballot package. Thank you.
Thank you very much. President Minot.
My only worry about is date of the election. In our constitution, we were going over it, and it does state 120 days, but it does state 120 days from past election. So we're going out of that scope already by having these two dates. So I recommend that we don't go out too far out of the boundaries of our constitution, because it does state 120 days from past election, which would bring this election around roughly January 5th to meet that 120-day mark. So we did present two different dates, and John had explained to me at the office in regards to how he selected those dates. So I'm just recommended we don't go out too much out of that scope.
Thank you very much for those comments. MWBC Vice Chairperson Katie Carson.
Hi, I just had a question about the number of signatures that are required, and I just wanted to know kind of the rationale between why for the new 2S LGBTQIA plus regional representatives, it's 3 rather than 5, like the women and youth.
Mr. Beaker, if you wish to respond to that.
That was such a great question, Vice Chair Carson, in that I'm going to have to give you a guess. And my guess is that the rationale behind that is the number of electors that would be eligible. In the 2022 by-election, we found that the gender breakdown between electors for MMBC was 52% identifying as women, 48% identifying as male. I believe that the elector pool for the youth and also the self-declaration is smaller, and that is the reason why. But that's my guess.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Certainly a good and interesting question for consideration. President Byrd, please go ahead.
I can answer that as well as one of the communities that were helping to draft that act. And that is in fact the correct reason, is that we don't have accurate representation numbers. And so we wanted to ensure that as many people could be placed in nomination as possible. So yes, good guess, John, you're correct.
Don't tell him he's correct. Just, you can confirm it. Look, he's smiling and giving fist pumps there. So, but thank you for the clarification, the confirmation, President Byrd. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this? And I'm seeing a hand. Is that President Bremner wishing to speak?
Yes,
If
please.
so, please go ahead. And then I've got President DeBoard next.
Thank you. For some reason, that because of the way I entered the meeting, it's not allowing me to put my other hand up. One of the thoughts that for myself that's really concerning, and I've been speaking to other representatives within the youth and the women, is the fact of they have such a small budget. And I know moving forward, that is something that would be coming up later when we set the budget for next year. But the reality of that is many are working. And so how do they then spend the time even to get to each one of their communities that are in their region? And it's really important that our members get to see them and have something happen in each of our communities. And I know our own youth rep on Vancouver Island for the regional event, the Rendezvous, Mid-Island put up $8,000 for them. in terms of doing that as well, because there was not a lot of money from MNBC. And just looking at how many youth actually were attending and the various other peoples that attended. So I think considering for all three of these going forward, it's really important that we look at the budgets that they're given each year when the budgets are formed within MNBC. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Bremner. President DeBoard, please go ahead.
Mark DeBoer, Two Rivers Métis. We went out to our community on this one, and just the fact that if you think about someone who's running for this role provincially, they might be traveling around the province or whatnot, trying to gather votes. And really, we'd like to advocate for the later of those two dates. I understand, Walter's point, but if these are the two options, I think giving enough people time, because the last thing people want is to be also, New Year's Day, they can't withdraw if they don't want to, right? So I think that you got to think about people's resolutions as well.
Thank you very much for those comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to this? Otherwise, we can get to the questions. And I do see President Wells. Please go ahead.
I just want to second what President Mark DeBoer just said, is that I think going to the later date allows people, especially during Christmas and everything else. And again, like President DeBoer just said, that if they wanted to take their name off on the 31st, they wouldn't be able to. Most places are closed. So I think we need to put some of that into consideration and making sure that we do this right and correctly. I realize it may be a few days outside the scope, but from my understanding, from the date of an election, but the chair wasn't put into place until the AGM. So from my perspective, it should be from that date.
No, thank you very much for those comments, President Wells. And I think the tricky thing and I think what I understood from President Minot's thing is that we've got two sets of dates. So there would be the by-elections created after the election, then of course the new 120 days because of the creation of the new positions at the ratification of at the AGM. So certainly appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else? Otherwise, how I propose going forward and what we've done in the past where we've had kind of alternate options is we will proceed by way of a poll to find which is the two best, or if I can put it that way, and then once that's selected, go by way of a roll call to confirm that. And I see President Minot, did you wish to speak again?
Yes, just a little clarification. Maybe John can answer this. What are the ramifications of us going outside of our Constitution? As we know, our Constitution is a law that we abide by, and it overrules our bylaws, everything else, policies, procedures. And our Constitution does strictly state 120 days, and we're already going out of the realm of that, that statement in our Constitution. So what is the chances of the election being challenged on those premises alone, that we went out of that realm of 120 days? Because we do have to abide by Constitution regardless of how we feel. So that is my concern right now, is if we do this and it gets challenged because we did not abide by our Constitution and our law, then are we going to be in a predicament where we might get challenged and have another election and cost MNBC and go through this all again?
Thank you for that question, Mr. Beaker, if you wish to respond.
Thank you for the question, President Minot. From my perspective, in my opinion of reading it, first off, there's an ambiguity as to which date that 120 day counts down from some of the comments from some of the other presidents. There is that, first off. Not to say one's right or wrong, but we are looking at which date do we count down from. The second piece is that the MNGA is authorized to set the election date as part of our legislation as well. And I'm of the opinion that the Assembly is supreme in some of the decisions that it makes, and it it can make decisions that are delegated to it, and it can get some, and there is a little bit of consideration around that. The third piece is that to for an election challenge, I would believe that somebody would have to challenge, use the basis of a challenge as to why their democratic rights were infringed upon by having a bit of a later date. From my perspective, it would be very hard for somebody to say that they didn't have a chance to be nominated and participate in an election because it was a week later than what the Constitution said. So while it might be strictly outside of those 120 days, um, where is the wrong that was put on you that needs to be rectified by running another election? Now that's honestly my opinion on that. Some people can disagree on that. The last piece too is that the Constitution does give, subject to available funding, as a little bit of a wiggle room for the 120 days as well. So I'm confident that that if the nation understands why we have an election date that may be a week later of the technical reading, I think everyone would be satisfied with that, as long as notice is properly given and everyone has a fair chance to participate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Beaker. And I think that point, he mentioned it by way of wiggle room, but the subject to funding, certainly I think would be a relevant factor when you think of them that might require two separate elections for the ones that are created from the earlier uh, um, vacancy and the more recent one given the creation. So thank you for that that information. I do see Director Fisher, and then I'll recognize President Wells again.
Yes, thank you. I actually was concerned as well about the Constitution and following the Constitution. And I think maybe what we need to do in the future with the electoral committee is to make sure that we change it so that it is somehow subject to MNBC sanctioned headquarter closures or something like that, so that if this ever happens again in the future, we can work around it without being fearful.
Thank you very much for those comments. And certainly we've seen over the past handful of years, unanticipated events, whether it's COVID or in this case, the creation of a brand new committee and positions where that might be something for the Electoral Act Committee or some committee to consider for potential amendment. Go ahead, President Wells.
I was just going to, Minister Fisher got to it before I did. I was just going to say is, we all know that, Métis Nation BC closes down around Christmas time, and maybe there's something that needs to be rectified in our Constitution so that when those breaks happen, whether it's spring break, whether it's Christmas break, whatever, that we can work around those. So thanks, Minister Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any further hands. I'll give one last quick chance. Otherwise, I'm going to suggest we proceed with the poll to provide or to vote on the preference of the two dates. And then, as I said, once that preference is made, we'll do a final vote on the adoption of the motion. But I do see President Sundin, so please go ahead, Joy.
Hi, good morning. Just a question on the voting in our regional in our regional areas. Does everyone vote, or would it just be persons that are self-declaring that would vote for their regional rep?
Thank you. And as I understood from the presentation from Mr. Beaker, given the wording in the act, in the new act, that it's based on self-declaration, and therefore, in order to allow for every individual who does self-identify and is therefore eligible to vote, that ballots will go out to all MNBC citizens over the age of 18 to give that option. So, for example, just using myself, I'm certainly, unfortunately, no longer a youth, and nor am I, do I self-identify as woman or a member of the LGBTQIA plus community. And therefore, while I would receive a ballot, I would not cast a ballot as I do not self-identify and would not meet the requirements or the eligibility. So that would be a situation for other individuals throughout the province, other citizens, but those that do self-identify and therefore are eligible. And as Mr. Beeger said, there is a portion on there that would be a self-declaration, and essentially, I'm not sure if it'd be an oath or an affirmation, but something to that effect, similar to when an individual applies for MNBC citizenship and affirms or there's an oath that they're not, for example, on the Indian Act registry or something like that as well. So it would have that legal weight behind it. That's my understanding, and certainly, if I'm incorrect, I'm sure Mr. Beeker will correct me. He's he's going to confirm and be right. He's nodding his head, so that's how I understand it. Does that answer your question, Joy? Okay, thank you. Go ahead, President Minot.
Yeah. I'm sorry to harp on this a little bit, but I'm just worried about the precedent that's going to be set by going out of the scope of our constitution. What John says, we can make some concessions here and everything, but we got the women and the youth in this election, which is not new positions, as well as can this committee, our MNGA, is this going to set a precedent for the future if we need to make a quick decision on something that is out of the scope of our constitution again, that might change, that allows us to make changes or go around our constitution for future decisions. So that's why I'm bringing up the situation. I want to make sure that we're protecting our constitution, and we can't use this type of set a precedent in this way to be able to go around our constitution in the future. So that's my big worry here.
No, and I appreciate those concerns, Walter. And with regards to precedent, the only thing I would just maybe point to is some of the incidents that have happened over the past few years, certainly with COVID and things where I'm not going to say unforeseen, but certainly situations that were not anticipated arose, which created actions that were taken that were contrary because they hadn't been anticipated. And then those were later addressed through changes in the legislation and things like that. So to not necessarily to make it compliant, looking back, but reflecting, and certainly the Constitution it's often referred to as a living document insofar as it can be amended. But I do appreciate that what it says now is the law, right, in for MNBC. So I certainly take all those comments, and I do see President Byrd if you wish to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate the concern that it could be outside the Constitution. However, I'm confident that with the information that Mr. Beeker provided, that especially when we think about that cost component, and if we think about the two different dates involved, one from the last election date and one from the AGM, those are different dates, and so those would be different 120-day counts. So I'm confident that with the information we have here and thinking about Christmas and candidates' abilities to connect with their families and still promote themselves and try to get their names out there and connect with the community, I am confident that both dates in January, those later dates are good, and that we won't face any challenges to those. Thank you.
Thank you. President Allard, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning. David Allard, Salmon Arm Métis Association, calling in from Shekwet territory. Yeah, I have a quick question here. Since we changed some of our acts at the last AGM, there was a requirement for all MNGA members to make an oath before MNGA meetings. regarding certain matters. Has this been enacted for this MNGA, or how's that working? So that relates to the create precedents for not following certain written legislation matters that's been brought up. Thank you.
I'll recognize Mr. Beaker.
Thank you. Thank you for that question, President Allard. That requirement in the MNGA Act will be enacted for the December sitting of the MNGA. Regrettably, with this being a special MNGA called on somewhat short notice, we didn't want to put a requirement on MNGA members to turn around a document before we held the session. That will be a requirement for the December MNGA.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank.
Sorry, and just to add on to that as well, the resolution enacting that change into the MNGA said that it would be in force for the winter MNGA, which is the November 30th, December 1st. So
Thank you. I thank both our clerk and deputy clerk here for that clarification and the question, President Allard. Leader McDonnell, please go ahead.
Good morning again. I'm kind of sitting here very hesitant because I have to agree with Walter and Deborah. We're in really turbulent times right now. And if it looks like we play fast and loose with our constitution and change it where it suits us, I'm wondering, should we set this precedent and then there are people who would like nothing better than to challenge us? I'm not sure about the dates. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'm just hearing what they say, and I'm kind of tending to agree with both of them.
Thank you very much. If I can just have a moment, President Wells, I'll get to you in just a second. If I can just have a quick second. Well, we can just have a moment. What I'm just asking our deputy clerk and clerk here is if, and I think Walter mentioned the date, the 120 days, I think from the election date would be January 5th. And so what we're going to ask is just if we can pull up and do the calculations that are necessary for the timeline of what that might look like for a January 5th election or by-election date, and then have that information available to everyone. Certainly, again, those two dates that are suggested in motion 2 are just suggestions, and given the information that's already been provided, but certainly is open to the MNGA sitting today to consider any other date as well, and just having that information. So perhaps while we're waiting to get the breakdown of, for example, when notice would need to be go out and those other dates, I'll turn it over to President Wells, and then hopefully we'll have those dates. Go ahead.
Thanks, David. Just in my experience, presidents aren't set in one idea. It doesn't matter where the court of law, where you go to, presidents aren't set in one stroke of a pen. And if we chose to do this, if we do it over and over and over again, now we're setting precedents. We're not setting a precedent at, one kick at the can here. And again, it sounds to me, and I'm gonna put this out there to the Two-Spirit people or the people who might be on this call or listening, that maybe we should just run it right away so there's no point in challenging it, or nobody has the opportunity to challenge this at a later date.
Thank you very much for those comments. I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Clerk, I think she's got the dates just so for everyone's consideration. Go ahead, Deputy Clerk. There we go. Thank you very much. She's posted that. So the notice then would have to go out November 6th. Nominations would close November 26th. Any acclamation notice would be on the 27th. The deadline to withdraw from an election would be December 15th. Closure of appeals to add name to elector list would be December 22nd, as well as the minimum opening date for online voting. And December 26th would be the last day to request a mail-in ballot, with the election occurring on Sunday, January 5th. So that information is there. What I'm going to ask for at this time, just so that we can prep it, if that seems to be the will, is there a desire to add as one of the suggested dates, January 5th, 2025? If so, what I'm going to look for is a mover and a seconder to add that third date. And I do see Vice President Van Wergen. Please go ahead.
Listening to the conversation of everybody, President Minot, as well as President McDonnell, and looking at the Constitution, listening to Pixie as well, and looking at the dates on the screen, I do think that this is almost a better time and would give more time for individuals to run and get out there prior to the closure of the MNBC set office, as well as kids coming home from school over those 2 weeks. Christmas break is usually from about that 15th to the first week of January for anyone that has youth and children. So also give some time for people to get their voting in. Perhaps the only issue I do see with it, obviously, is our mailing system. And so for those mail-in ballots, are people going to get those in time? That would be my only concern with this date. But I do agree with the other presidents and speakers in regards to following our constitutions and maybe trying to get this done sooner than later. So I have a concern in regards to mail-in ballots, but I am in favor of the date, if that makes sense.
No, certainly I appreciate that. And I think your concerns there regarding the ballot certainly reflects the concerns that were identified and set out in Mr. Beaker's kind of presentation. Certainly, we're thinking we're in end of October, and just with regards to, sounds like the flooding that we've got right now, and these types of things, which we've seen in the past, again, these mail interruptions that were unanticipated that have caused issues, that may be problematic. Now, I do see something in the chat, and again, please try to use the raise hand function so we can have, so everyone can hear it. But there was a question whether one feather was ready for the timelines, and I believe Mr. Beaker confirmed yes with regards to the January 5th proposed date. So I'm going to take it, Vice President Wergen, you are moving or in favor of adding that January 5th date, and I'm seeing you're nodding your head. Thank you very much. And I am going to look to see if there's anyone wishing to second that, and I do see Leader McDonnell's hand, so I'll recognize you at this time.
Yes, I would like to second. We add this as a third option. Mercy.
Thank you very much. And we will then, I think, add that. And so we'll just add that to the poll that that we had. So what that'll do then, and I'm not sure if there's any further discussion. I think it's been quite a fulsome discussion, and I think the various concerns have been raised, but certainly if there's any further anyone wishing to speak, and I see President Byrd, please go ahead.
Just noting again in the chat, there's a question about, do we not go from the AGM of September 21st if we're talking about the Two-Spirit position, and then it would be from the last election for the vacant women and youth positions?
Yes, and so given that the wording is within 120 days, so that's the outside limit. So if, for example, January 5th was chosen, then that would meet the 120 days for all of the vacancies. That being the vacancies created by the election and the lack of either whether candidates or anyone being elected in those positions, as well as the newly created positions for which there's a vacancy. So the January 5th date, and again, I'm trusting other people's math here, but if that's within the 120 days, that would capture all of the vacancies. Anyone else other than that? Otherwise, we will go to our polling option. And what we'll do is we will, as I said, the poll will go out. You'll choose your number one choice, and then if we have a majority, we'll proceed with that. If there's a plurality, what we'll do is take the top two choices and eliminate the third choice, and then run a second poll until we get a majority date on that, and then we would go on the motion number two as a whole. So I'm not seeing any further hands, and I'm just going to turn to our deputy clerk. Do we have the poll ready? I'm seeing head nodded, so thank you very much. So we will open that, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Beaker to kind of manage that process.
Okay, the poll is open. Please select your preferred date. And I know that we've had a couple of delegates join after the quorum count. And I also know that we have a couple people who are in the meeting observing because we did not get the live stream up, but rest assured we are going to put a recording up of the MNGA on our website so that people can watch regrettably after the fact. So I see that 29 delegates have voted, 31. Come on, let's get that up to, I'd like to say a 35, 36. Yep. 35 of 42. And as an aside, I'm going to have to get that list of the Mitchiff numbers from our speaker because I have forgotten about them, or I'd do a countdown on that. But we'll give it 1, 2. Okay, let's close voting now, and then display the results, please.
So there are 20 votes in favor of January 5th, 5 votes in favor of January 17th, and 10 votes in favor of January 30th.
Thank you very much. So we do have a majority of the participants. Oh, sorry, just a moment. Again, math's not my strong point. So yes, we do have a majority on the January 5th date. So that is the date that will be, if you're looking at motion 2, that'll be the date that's entered in the blank space there. And then we will now proceed with the roll call vote on motion 2 with that date of January 5th, 2025. And just if it is affirmed, then that will be the date going forward. If it is not passed, then we will go back to the other dates that may have been offered. So just so everyone has an idea of the process. But when they're, oh, sorry, just a moment. Mr. Beaker's reminded me that that we don't need a roll call for this, but I think given that we've had some people kind of log in at some point uh, during the meeting, that we will go by way of roll call just so that we can accurately record the votes. So I will turn it over to Mr. Beaker at this time for the motion 2.
Okay, we will go in reverse alphabetical order this time. So we'll start with Anthony Wingham.
Yes, in favor.
Pixie Wells.
Sorry, in favor.
Vince Van Weergen.
Favor.
Marlene Swears.
In favor.
Joyce Sundin.
In favor.
Greg Stanwood.
In favor.
Natasha Smith.
In favor.
Mert Servatius.
In favor.
Walter Minot. Sorry, Minalt.
Minot. In favor.
Betty Ann McDonnell.
In favor.
Tyler Massey.
In favor.
Richard Lewis.
In favor.
Alan Lavallee.
In favor.
Peter Lang.
In favor.
Anthony Crelo.
In favor.
Travis Jobin.
In favor.
Susie Hooper.
In favor.
Patrick Harriet.
In favor.
June Graham.
Opposed. Just kidding. I'm in favor.
Thank you. Dean Gladu.
In favor.
Paulette Flamond.
In favor.
Deborah Fisher.
In favor.
Alicia Fernando.
In favor.
Mark DeBoard.
In favor.
Madeline Crozier.
In favor.
Alana Copeland.
In favor.
Katie Carson.
In favor.
Topher Burke.
In favor.
Joy Bremner.
In favor.
Caitlin Bird.
In favor.
Danielle Bergevin.
In favor.
Melanie Allard.
In favor.
David Allard.
In favor.
Tom Adams.
In favor.
Tom Spence.
In favor.
Is there anyone that I missed?
Cheryl Godman. In favor.
Oh, good morning, Cheryl.
Lisa
Anyone
Shepherd.
else? Oh, Lisa Shepherd.
In favor.
Lisa Shepherd in favor. Anyone else?
Bernadette Chaboyer in favor.
Bernadette Chaboyer in favor. Thank you. Okay. If I haven't missed anyone else, I don't have a number, but that passes unanimously.
I've got a count of 38. So thank you, everyone. Another way to get to unanimous consent. I appreciate that. Motion 2 passes with the date of January 5th, 2025. Thank you, everyone, for that. And looking at our draft agenda, we are done. I'm not sure if Senator Murray's on. Senator Murray is coming in right now. So
Yeah, I've got to text him.
perfect. Thank you. And I understand he's coming on. We've been in contact with him already as well. So thank you. But thank you very much, Director Fisher. And I do see our clerk, Mr. Beaker's hand up. So I will recognize him.
So just a very quick piece. We did have a question in the chat as to when the recording of the meeting will be posted. It will be posted today. It takes Zoom a little bit of time to compile the recording. Once it's compiled, we will post it to the website today. We do have confirmation that that will happen. So I would say noon the latest, but probably earlier.
1 o'clock Mountain Time. Thank you very much. So again, I want to thank everyone. There's some great conversation and discussion today. It's always a pleasure working in front of this group, and I'm glad we're not taking up too much of everyone's day today. Once we have Senator Murray, I will turn it over to him for closing prayer. I think he may be in now. So Senator Murray, you can please go ahead. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. I just want to provide a closing prayer for your meeting today. Creator, we give thanks for the opportunity for our leaders to spend time together today. Watch over our leaders as they continue the important work of building our communities and collective nation. Encourage them to be guided by the values and traditions of our ancestors, to seek the counsel from our elders, and focus their efforts on the future of our nation, that is our children. Merci de Tron.
Thank you very much, Senator Murray. And before I close today's meeting, I just want to maybe highlight a couple of dates for everyone. Obviously, our next scheduled assembly is, just make sure I got the dates, November 30th and December 1st, the weekend. It's another online meeting, but there are very upcoming deadlines with regards to submission for resolutions or amendments. So thank you very much for our Deputy Clerk for providing those up here on the screen. So you'll see we've already missed or passed some of the dates. But the next one coming up tomorrow for any proposed resolutions from members of the MNGA regarding constitutional amendments. So if you are in the process of drafting that, make sure it's in by tomorrow. Other proposed resolutions from members of the MNGA regarding legislation or legislative amendments being Halloween, the 31st, as well as any other resolutions on other matters. So please ensure you forward those to Nicole Ludwig. I do see Director Harriet's hand. I will recognize you at this time. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to put forward a motion to adjourn.
All right. Well, we have those dates. I do have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a seconder? I'm seeing hands go up. All right, we've got the first hand that came up officially that I see using the raise hand function, which I always appreciate, is Lisa Shepherd from GEMS. So thank you very much. We do have that unanimous consent. Is there anyone objecting to going on with your day? Not seeing that. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your time and consideration, and we will see you all at November 30th. Bye, everyone.
Keep safe, everyone.
Yeah. I was expecting Rebel June to put up her hand.
Thank you.